The question is, shouldn't this safety cable be attached to the fixture body rather than the yoke? And yes, that's what this is for, so you can attach the safety cable to the fixture body, but it's also common practice to hook it or loop it around the yoke. In older fixtures, we used to have to loosen up these knobs and use that to change the tilt. But in a lot of newer fixtures, like the Source 4s, you're actually not loosening up the bolt that's attaching the yoke to the body. You're loosening up this knob that is putting pressure on this plate that allows you to tilt and move into position and then tighten down. So you're actually not loosening up the bolt that is attaching to the body. So the chances of both of these bolts failing are really, 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 really slim. The main points of failure that you're going to experience are C-clamp failure and your bolt from your C-clamp to your yoke. Those are going to be your most likely points of failure. And your C-clamp is going to fail most likely because people are over-tightening the C-clamp bolt. It's always best to use a smaller wrench. I always recommend you only use a 6-inch wrench or an 8-inch wrench for all of your lighting fixture needs. You shouldn't need to go up for any wrench bigger than that. And if you do go up for a wrench bigger than that, then you're more than likely going to over-torque a lot of your nuts and bolts and hardware. You can see even with it loose, let's say it's not even tight, let's say it's just finger tight, it can't come out. So you have to actually have it fairly wide open just to be able to slip it off the bar. But I want to snug it up and not over tighten it. I have a lot of strength in my arm, so I'm choking up on the wrench to make sure that I don't over tighten it. I'm not taking my big 8-inch wrench and putting all my leverage on the very end of the wrench because it's not necessary. What happens when you start to over tighten this, you'll know that it's over tightened when you start to put a dent in your steel pipe, and it's going to create micro fractures and micro fissures in the back of the C-clamp. And this is just a cast piece of metal. If this is over tightened, this will fail over time. If this is aluminum and you over tighten it, it's definitely going to ding it up. And if it's aluminum truss, you've now damaged and possibly destroyed your aluminum truss, which is why you don't use C-clamps on aluminum truss, but you use them on steel pipe. The other point of failure is this large 1/2-inch bolt. If that gets loose, sometimes people just want to muscle it, around, and you just muscle it around. And now if suddenly I've loosened this up, if I'm in an earthquake zone like I am in Southern California, this guy, if it's not really snug and tight, could start to work its way loose, and that's your second point of failure. These 2 points of failure are your most common points of failure, and attaching to the yoke resolves that point of failure. Yes, this is the safer way to attach your safety cable, but the reason we do this here is because now when the safety cable is looped around the yoke arm, it can't disappear, it can't wander, it can't leave. It's been slipped on top of here and it's going with the fixture. If I squeeze this through there, then it's possible someone could pull it out of there and suddenly now I'm hanging lights without a safety cable, or someone is hanging lights without a safety cable. That might not get caught and fixed. Now you could manufacture your own safety cables and crimp this loop into this, but we don't make our own safety cables because I find it's cheaper to just buy the pre-made safety cables than it is to make your own. If you do make a safety cable, you want to only use rated hardware, and the way that you know that these clips are rated is that they will have a ring in the bottom, and it should have a stamped rating on it as well. This says working load limit 150 pounds, 1/4-inch carabiner type clip. I find that buying these in small quantities, 50 or 100, this piece of hardware costs me as much as the whole pre-made safety cable that I can buy from one of my vendors. So it's just not worth it to me to buy the parts and to take the time to make my own safety cables. But if you are making your own, make sure you use the rated hardware. These are rated hardware. These are all unrated hardware, and they should never be used in rigging. They should never be used as safety cables. So newer fixtures have this type of hardware that helps prevent it from actually coming apart. You're not actually loosening the nuts and bolts that are actually holding the yoke to the fixture. But let's say you've got a fixture like this, that you are actually loosening up the bolt that holds it together in order to focus it. Now this doesn't have that extra safety valve. But on this fixture, I don't have a point on the body of the Fresnel to attach like I do on the Source 4. So I have no choice but to hook it around the yoke. Looking around to make sure there's nothing over here. Yeah, there's no point of attachment other than the yoke. So you're not going to have that option with every style of fixture.